So I'll give a brief summary of our activities, and then we'll invite 2 or 3 of our friends who've journeyed down from Birmingham just to share a little bit from their perspective. Thank you to our previous 3 speakers. I think there was a good balance of idealism and realism from the 3 of you. Thank you very much for that. We need that, I feel. We try to get that balance in UPF. We have to keep our idealism alive, but deal with reality. You probably know the phrase, think global, act local, right? I like that phrase also. So I'll just go chronologically through the year, roughly. February, Interfaith Harmony Week that Robin just mentioned for the coming year. Then we had an event. This is our living room here. We've extended our house 7 times to try and cope with increasing numbers of people. And we like to meet in our home. Somehow there's something very warm and attractive about that. I think Abra and the others will attest to that. The gentleman on the left there, the front, is Dr. Bogle. He's the current chair of Birmingham's Council of Faiths. A very wonderful man. We were hoping he would come today, but it's his birthday, so that had priority. Patricia gets involved in this activity with this gentleman over here on the left in the middle, Dr. Peter Rooks. He's the secretary of the Birmingham Council of Faiths. He's an avid, works in healthcare for most of his life, but also he's an avid interfaith and scouting expert. So every year he has an event, Faiths for Fun, and invites young people from the Scouts and Guides and Brownies. And in small groups, they go to different tables and learn a little bit about our faiths in the Birmingham region, and just exposing them to some of the positive aspects of our faith traditions. So Patricia supports that. We do a little bit of education on a regular basis, again in our home. We've extended our kitchen 3 times to accommodate especially increasing number of ladies. And we cover different aspects of the principles of peace. This one was, where is peace? And we decided it starts here. Peace in myself, then in my family, my community, and hopefully out into the wider world. Two or 3 times a year, we have an event at the Al-Mahdi Institute, which is a very forward-looking, forward-thinking academic institute from the Shia community in Birmingham. And if any of you have the possibility to encounter the director, he's called Sheikh Arif Abdul Hussein. Incredible guy. He gets some persecution from his own more conservative elements within Islam, but he's just ready to embrace the world, and he loves us to use their prayer hall for our interfaith activities, and we work in partnership with them. Quite amazing. And most people who come into this prayer hall feel welcomed. They feel warm. So it's just an amazing experience. And we had about 120 people at that event. We just love using their place. And this was a very progressive, literally, iftar during Ramadan in Birmingham, the progressive synagogue where they opened their doors to Muslim brothers and sisters to break their fast in the evening. Can you imagine? In the current context of what's happening in the Middle East, to do that and to provide food, a place to pray. Imam Prezada was there. It was just an amazing experience for those participating. We've tried to support Robin and Margaret and the events here 2 or 3 times a year, trekking down from Birmingham. And I'll just mention briefly, not this particular screen particularly, but anyway, last year my wife was fortunate to receive a Coronation Champions Award. There were 500 given out around the country from the King and the Queen for service to others, community service. That's not why I mentioned this, but we decided to write a reply to His Majesty later in the year, thanking him for this award, wishing him well with his health, but detailing all of our UPF and Women's Federation activities that we do locally and on the national level. And he wrote the most gracious of replies through his head of royal correspondence, thanking us. But in the last paragraph, the King has asked me to send his warmest wishes, good wishes to you and all those involved in your activities. So I would like to extend that to you also. Thank you. And I think we should pray for our King and Queen because he has that mind, mind that we were just talking about, that bigger mind that thinks about what is in everybody's best interest. That's a key tenet of UPF, mutual prosperity. What is mutual prosperity? My happiness and your happiness. As Keith was describing, how to resolve these conflicts, to think about the good of everybody, even if we have to make sacrifices on the personal level. This was I mentioned Actar here. She's on the right there. She's downstairs. We were invited to the induction ceremony of a new Dean of Solihull in the leafy suburbs of Birmingham. And Tony Rindle came up from Watford to take that role. We managed to meet the Bishop of Birmingham, Bishop Michael Volland. And when I heard him speak, I thought he's coming from Cambridge, so I hadn't actually met him before. Maybe he's an academic, but he gave a most inclusive presentation, both for Tony and the audience that was there. I was very impressed and moved by a person in that position. And then through that, Tony Rindle's wife invited Patricia to attend UN Day. Anybody know where Harpenden is? Anybody know where Luton is? It's near Luton. And Patricia was invited to speak about our peace activities for UN Day in Harpenden. And the Lady Mayor, Lord Mayor was there, a lovely lady, a very humble person. And it was a most wonderful experience to meet 50 or 60 really dedicated, mostly elderly people who've devoted their lives to the cause of the UN. Very moving. It was nice we could offer them something, I feel. Kuldip is here on the left. This was a visit of his spiritual leader, His Holiness Satguru Uday Singh Ji. And I put this partly because Kuldip is there on the left, but partly the gentleman with the orange headgear is our police crime commissioner in the West Midlands, Simon Foster. And we've had several conversations with him, and he has told us that he firmly believes that the rioting that took place in July, if you remember, that started to kick off in different places, Manchester and so on, didn't really take off in Liverpool, in Birmingham, his jurisdiction, because of all the work that's going on at the faith leaders level, at the community level, at the grassroots level. He really believed, and he was so grateful for these kind of efforts, that held things in check because of the relatively good relations we have between people through these kind of activities. I was very moved by him to hear that. Coming to a conclusion, this is a one-day seminar, educational seminar that Reverend Dr. David Hanna gave. We ordered food for 70 people and 150 turned up. But any Christians amongst you will be familiar with the parable of the feeding the 5,000. So many of our guests had brought food that was just enough to feed everybody. And we fundraised also there and several times during the year for Gaza and Lebanon. We raised several £1,000s for incubators for premature babies in Gaza when the time is right, and for food relief and meals for people living on the streets of Lebanon. That's act local. Think global, act local. There were some good reflections from that, from Sheikh Nuru, particularly. Some of you will know him from Birmingham. Again, a very forward-thinking Ghanaian who learned his trade in Kenya and South Africa and now is expressing it in Birmingham. Very attractive person for young people. Amazing guy. October, a 3-day retreat. Some of you will know Cleve House. Wonderful with Christian ministers there. This was the launch of Interfaith Week in Birmingham with Councillor Nicky Brennan and the leader of the council, John Cotton. And finally, interfaith prayers were offered during Interfaith Week at a major Catholic church in the city centre of Birmingham. An interfaith walk that we went on in Solihull with the mayor over there in the middle. And she walked the whole route. She didn't just turn up for the photograph at the beginning. She walked the whole route for 2 hours with everybody. A wonderful lady. I think it's the first Muslim Lord Mayor in Solihull. And finally, our event not long ago at the Al Mahdi, to come back to that. Jatinda there is the former co-chair of the Interfaith Network that we hope the current government will resurrect in some form or other, because the previous government withdrew the funding, it collapsed. And we spoke about youth activities, our work in the Middle East. That slide behind me is our people distributing food to the people living on the streets of Lebanon currently through our fundraising efforts. And socializing a network at the end. This is our youngest participant there in the red suit. So that's just a little summary of our activities.